Hi, I'm Dazza Greenwood, and let's continue with our hands-on guide to using the Lake Merritt open source custom AI evals platform. So the next guide is guide number 4, and this one shows us how to replicate a real benchmark. In this case, it's the so-called BBQ fairness benchmark. It tests for different types of bias, things like age or gender, and a whole bunch of stuff. There's actually 3,600 different question answer pairs is how this one works. That slice and dice this lots of different ways just to show the usability and the reach of having an extensible modular architecture, such as we have with Lake Merritt. I went ahead and replicated this very fairness eval, which involves creating a custom scorer and a custom eval pack, which we went over in the last session, and a few other little doohickeys that we'll get into later when we talk about doing more enterprise grade or complex types of evals. But first, let's continue with this super fast run through of how to use this path. And it's another example of how to use an eval pack, and also just shows you the types of evals that you can do. So first thing we have to do is grab the eval pack that I've already put together for this purpose. You'll find it in the GitHub repository, and it's in test packs, which is a directory off the root. And just that. Here we go. So test packs. And what's this one called again? BBQ eval pack. Okay. BBQ eval pack. There you go. Here's how this one looks. Notice how it's a little bit different from the last one that we had. That's partly because we're dealing now with multiple choice questions and the format's a little different. So let's go back to the guide and see the next thing that we do. So we've got that eval pack. Oh, wait, I just showed you the eval pack. What we have to do is ingest the eval pack. So can you click eval pack, upload the eval pack? Ta-da! You can take a peek at it just to make sure. Looking good. Now we're going to upload the data. So in this case, the data is in the GitHub repo as well. And in order to run this eval, you need two types of data, some supplemental data, which is this very complex kind of meta type information that deals with the type of eval that it is, and then the actual data of the questions being posed to the model in this case. So what I have here is just a little file that that points to both of those data sources in the GitHub repo. So we're going to upload this file, bbq_path_cloud, and it will get us to where we want to go. It will go and acquire that model for the eval. I think that was it. Yeah. Okay. Now let's give it some instructions. Yeah, this is appropriate for this eval. Respond with only the text of the single best option. And then it's depending on how you do the eval, you might just tell it to respond with only the letter. And then you could go through further and set up the API in some sort of enforce JSON or use Pydantic or something to make sure it's just letter A, B, C, D, and so forth. But this will do for now, especially to show you the things that happen based on the prompt. So now we're actually running the pack, and ta-da, boy, that's fast. Let's see how we did. So by the way, these all related to age. I just took a subset of the questions related to age, and we've got some wins and some losses. Let's take a look at one of the wins. 4. To this one. Yep, passed. We can click on this to see exactly what happened. The predicted label, the actual label match ratio was a yes. You'll notice that what you see in the scoring details is idiosyncratic to the way that eval actually works. One other word about this eval and why I chose this rather peculiar method of scoring, which does not use an LLM as a judge, despite how relatively kind of subjective, objective some of these issues are. This dates from before the mainstream advent of the post-ChatGPT level of models, although we did have some real generative AI models that this was pointed at. But this BBQ benchmark continues to be a standout benchmark when it comes to looking at fairness and bias. In fact, it is the only fairness benchmark that was used to assess GPT-5, which just came out a few days ago. It's an important benchmark. You have now seen that you can replicate even complex benchmarks. You can go and get much more complete information in the download center in terms of full reports on everything that happened. So there you have it. We've replicated a complex academic benchmark in just a few clicks, and it kind of shows you how you can create very detailed and idiosyncratic types of scoring and workflows and ways of doing evaluations yourself using Lake Merritt as the open source workbench.